Over 400 years ago, in Italy, the measurement of time was about to take a decisive step forward. Born in Tuscany, Galileo Galilei, then 19 years old, was attending Mass in Pisa's cathedral. The future astronomer and mathematician was watching the swinging of a chandelier and realized that although decreasing in size, each pendulum swing always took the same time. Later, he would formulate the basic laws of dynamics and gravity as he followed his credo, "Outside mathematics, there is no salvation." Galileo may have imagined the possibility of a timekeeper based on his discovery, but it was the Dutch physicist and astronomer Huygens who created the first pendulum clock 50 years later. (1860). In Florence, Giovanni Panerai opened the first watch shop in the city where he displayed the most distinguished Swiss makes. For its clientele of connoisseurs, the Panerai family then opened a highly regarded repair workshop and the first watchmaking school in Florence. Under the impetus of Guido Panerai, the grandson of the founder, the company extended its activities to the production of high-precision optical and measuring instruments for the Royal Italian Navy. Panerai produced luminous instruments for firing naval guns at night, mechanical calculators which could be used in the dark, depth gauges, and military compasses. The instruments made by Guido Panerai Ottica e Meccanica di Precisione for the Italian Navy were used in total darkness, thus remaining unseen by the enemy. In the course of its research into nocturnal luminosity, Panerai was granted an international patent in 1915 for radiomere, a highly luminous weather-resistant material which radiated light without needing previous exposure to the sun. To contain the radiomere, a mixture of phosphorescent zinc sulfide and radium bromide, Panerai developed tiny hermetically sealed glass tubes. While Guido Panerai was planning to illuminate the dials of depth gauges, compasses, and other instruments with radiomere, the Italian Navy, in its search for watches for its combat divers, approached its instrument supplier. For its commandos, the Italian Navy needed watches capable of resisting the pressure 200 meters deep and perfect readability in total darkness. To meet these requirements, Panerai developed in the greatest secrecy and under the name Radiomere, the prototype of the first professional diving watch in the world, distinguished by an unusually shaped case with the impressive diameter of 47 millimeters. Successfully tested by the Navy, 10 examples of the Radiomere prototype were produced, fitted with a 16-line Rolex movement with 17 joules and a power reserve of 41 hours. Like the compasses, these had a perspex crystal, and the greased leather strap was long enough for the watch to be worn over the diving suit. For the final version of the Radiomere in 1938, the Italian commandos asked for a dial even easier to read in the dark, and a new design was produced with 4 oversized Radiomere Arabic numerals at the cardinal points. This dial has remained one of the essential characteristics of Panerai watches. At that time, the Italian Navy created a special unit of divers equipped with a very unusual vessel, the SLC Slow-Speed Human Torpedo. Transported to the operating zone by ship or submarine, the divers used it to travel underwater beneath minefields to reach an enemy ship and blow it up. First known as the MAS, standing for Motobarca Armata Silurante, and later as the Gamma Group, these Italian commandos distinguished themselves in several marine operations, which made their mark on naval history in the Second World War. Panerai instruments were part of the equipment that the commandos took on every mission. After the first deliveries to the Navy, Panerai improved the strap attachments of the Radiomere, which were now an integral part of the solid steel case. To increase the water resistance of the crown, used every time the watch was wound and set, Panerai devised an ingenious locking lever device, itself protected by a bridge. At the request of some divers who preferred wearing the watch on their right wrist, this device was positioned on the left side of the case. Its operation is simple and effective. When the lever is released, the winding crown moves freely. When locked, the lever presses on the crown, pushing it against the case and compressing the seals perfectly. This device also protects the crown against shocks and unintentional movement during high-risk operations or at great depths. The bridge device protecting the crown was only patented in Italy in 1956 and the US in 1960. Until then, it had been a military secret. Aware of the radioactivity emitted by the radiomere substance, PANERAI developed a new luminous material, luminor, in which the radium was replaced by tritium. At the end of the Second World War, various models were produced with and without the lever device protecting the crown. The Italian military navy authorized PANERAI to supply 50 radiomere watches to the Egyptian navy. In the 1980s, PANERAI developed the prototype for a titanium watch, water-resistant to a depth of 1,000 meters. This revived the technique of the little capsules to illuminate the hour markers and hands using tritium. Long a well-kept military secret, only 300 PANERAI watches were produced in total. In 1993, PANERAI watches became available to the public. Owned since 1997 by the Vendôme Group, now Richemont, PANERAI still makes its watches in its workshop, following the same standards of craftsmanship as Officine PANERAI in the past, thus continuing their rarity and their exceptional quality. This is why PANERAI continues to respond in a modern manner to the demands for great strength and extreme readability, two qualities more important than ever. A true laboratory of ideas, PANERAI is developing new ways of using steel and titanium for its cases, with the aim of further improving the comfort and reliability of its watches. This is how it's done. First of all, the impressive PANERAI case is formed from a single block of very high-quality steel, which is almost 1 centimeter thick and weighs 210 grams. Molded by a 100-ton press, the one-piece case block takes shape. It is then machined by robots, capable of carrying it through dozens of operations using many different tools. After a long, precise process of hand polishing, which refines the style and protection of each part of the case, more than 60 operations, the various elements are carefully assembled and the imposing 3.5 millimeter thick sapphire crystal is fitted to a future luminor. The strength and reliability of each case is rigorously and systematically tested. Here, 1,000-meter cases are being tested at high pressure at a simulated depth of 1,700 meters. Some PANERAI luminor models or parts of their cases are made of titanium, an ultra-light material which is even more resistant than steel. Particularly difficult to work, titanium is used in the aeronautical and aerospace industries. It is completely resistant to corrosion by seawater or chemicals. Titanium is also non-magnetic and hypoallergenic. The PANERAI titanium case is entirely hand-polished to a brushed finish, each part in a particular direction so as to ensure a better surface protection and to preserve its technical military aspect in the style of the prototype of the 1,000 meters diving watch developed 20 years ago by PANERAI. More than 60 years after it was invented, the lever device protecting the crown, patented by PANERAI, now benefits from the most modern manufacturing techniques. With its functional operation and technical approach typical of PANERAI, the bridge and other elements of the lever device protecting the crown are manufactured in materials ensuring the best possible performance and then assembled. Since its invention in 1940, the lever device protecting the crown has retained its efficiency. Indeed, it's been improved since it can operate down to 300 meters, 100 meters deeper than the original device. To protect the dial of the watch against the enormous pressure of great depths, PANERAI uses corundum sapphire, whose hardness index is close to that of diamond. In other words, it's almost impossible to scratch. The particularly low refraction index of corundum, the purity of this material, and the anti-glare treatment ensure perfect readability under any condition. 3.5 millimeters thick in most PANERAI models, the sapphire of the Luminor submersible 1,000 meters is 5.1 millimeters thick. The screwback reflects the quality of the water resistance, and it also reveals the identity of every PANERAI watch. For example, here C represents the year 2000 and shows that the watch was produced in the PANERAI workshop in that year. The letter indicating the year of manufacture is followed by the watch number and the size of the edition. This is watch number 448 out of 1,500 produced in 2000. Also recorded are the indication of the maximum depth at which the watch is water resistant. With its perfect nighttime readability and unique style, the dial of every PANERAI watch is produced with true craftsmanship. Exceptionally thick at 1 millimeter, the base of the dial is hollow stamped to enable the application of the optimum amount of luminous material. While the creation of the famous PANERAI black dial on its copper base involves great manual skill and the mysteries of chemical baths, the chronometer counters are carefully blued to ensure the readability of the measurements and play of light. Created by the PANERAI Design Laboratory, the bracelet reflects PANERAI's ability to innovate while preserving its unique style. The PANERAI bracelet is made up of over 100 separate components. Each link consists of 2 superimposed elements secured by titanium screws. The upper link has the same shape as the bridge device, while both the upper and lower links may be steel or titanium, depending on the version. Each link requires 20 machine operations. Depending on the case, the PANERAI bracelet is in polished steel, brushed steel, or a combination of steel and titanium. It is fastened with a dépliant clasp. Leather is part of the historical image of PANERAI. PANERAI offers very high-quality leather straps, whose shape and thickness enable them to be integrated perfectly with the strap attachments of the case. Made in calf or alligator, the PANERAI leather straps are distinguished by their great flexibility and resistance to seawater, humidity, and perspiration. They dry rapidly without losing their shape, color, or suppleness. The alligator PANERAI straps comply with the International Convention concerning animals in danger of extinction. The parts used are the belly, the center of the skin, as well as the sides and tail. PANERAI leather straps are non-allergenic and are available in several sizes and in many colors and finishes. For those who require them, there are also rubber and Velcro versions, completing the active part of this collection. As far as movements are concerned, PANERAI continues to apply its philosophy of transformation and adaptation of existing calibers to make them even more reliable and stronger with additional features. For instance, the PANERAI automatic calibers OP3, 7, and 9 are modifications of the famous Valjoux 7750 P1 movement, renowned for its robustness and reliability. PANERAI prefers to use this movement for its watches without complications, so as to ensure a mechanism with great reserve of power. The small seconds dial at 9 o'clock still recalls the original caliber. For very limited editions, such as the 20 units of the Radiomir Split Seconds Chronograph edition produced in 1999, PANERAI discovered and reassembled some rare examples of the 14-line Venus 179 caliber, whose split seconds chronograph function with 2 column wheels can be seen here in operation. For its chronographs, PANERAI bases its caliber OP4 on the 13¼ line Zenith El Primero, while the Radiomir Zerograph is based on the Lemania CHT-15 from the 1940s. Still following the most rigorous quality standards set at the start by the commandos of the Italian Navy, PANERAI today produces watches which successfully pass all the tests of the COSC Swiss Chronometer Testing Organization. Today, as in the past, Officine PANERAI watches are the result of the combination of exceptional Italian style with the excellence of Swiss manufacture. In the past, a military secret, PANERAI watches have preserved their authenticity and their rarity within the context of an international haute horlogerie brand. The exclusivity of PANERAI production is expressed through the concentration and selectivity of its distribution. Only the best professionals in the world offer PANERAI watches. Associated by its origins with the sea, PANERAI shapes the future of its message in the context of the sports luxury sector. PANERAI is expanding its collections within 3 product ranges, defined as historic, contemporary, special editions. The historic range recalls the PANERAI models of the 1930s and 40s. The Luminor base is the archetype, with its diameter of 44 millimeters, its large-size dial, hand winding, and its device protecting the crown. While respecting the PANERAI spirit of their origin, the models of the contemporary range benefit from innovations in the movement and its functions, as well as in its cases. From 1938 until the 1980s, only 300 watches were produced for the Italian Navy. Faithful to this spirit, each year limited special editions are created. Inheriting all the technical characteristics and personality of the first Luminor PANERAI of the 1940s, the Luminor base is available with a polished steel case 44 millimeters in diameter with a black or white dial, or with an all-brushed titanium case and a brown dial. The Luminor base is fitted with a 16½ line OP1 hand-wound mechanical movement with 17 joules and a power reserve of 41 hours. Water resistant to 300 meters as a result of its screw-back, lever-operated crown device, and sapphire glass 3½ millimeters thick, the Luminor base is available on various PANERAI leather straps with personalized buckle. In 1943, PANERAI fitted Luminor watches with an Angelus movement with an 8-day power reserve, reducing the frequency of the winding operation. The Luminor Marina also has a small seconds dial and is fitted in a 44 millimeter case with the lever crown device, with the same performance that is typical of the Luminor base, water resistant to 300 meters. The steel version has a black or white dial, while the all-titanium case has a brown dial. The hand-wound mechanical movement of the Luminor Marina is the 16½ line OP2 with 17 joules and a power reserve of 41 hours. The The divers of the Italian Navy already wore a compass or depth gauge on the left wrist, so some of them wanted a watch for left-handed operation, which Panerai developed in the early 1940s. With its winding crown on the left of the case, the seconds indicator on the right of the dial, and a modified hand-wound mechanical movement, the left-handed version of the Luminor Marina is available in a steel version with a black dial or in titanium with a brown dial. Based on the watch created in 1956 for the Egyptian Navy, the Luminor submersible has a rotating bezel divided into 60 clicks, conforming to the NIHS standards of the Swiss watch industry. The OP3 automatic movement on a Valjoux 7750 base gives the watch a power reserve of 42 hours. The oversized hands and tritium markings make it easy to use in the dark. Water resistant to 300 meters, the 44mm case is of polished steel with a black dial or brushed titanium with a black dial with Clou de Paris hobnail decoration. A new version with a brushed titanium case and brushed steel bezel and device protecting the winding crown is conceived with a bracelet also made of titanium and steel. To resist the enormous pressure of 100 atmospheres, the oversized case of the Luminor submersible 1,000 meters is fitted with an anti-reflective sapphire crystal 5.1 millimeters thick and a 3 millimeter screwback. In brushed AISI 316L steel, the case of the 1,000 meters is equipped with a helium release valve, operating while returning to the surface when the pressure inside the watch is too high. This watch meets the demanding requirements of professional divers. It's fitted with the OP3 automatic movement on a Valjoux 7750 base with COSC certificate. Its blue dial with large markings in tritium is particularly legible at night. The Luminor GMT incorporates one of the more useful mechanical complications, the 24-hour second time zone indication. Its exclusive automatic OP8 caliber on a 7750 base has the small seconds dial at 9 o'clock, typical of Panerai. Water resistant to 300 meters, the case is in brushed titanium with anthracite dial, or in polished steel with a Panerai black dial and alligator strap. With its OP9 automatic movement on a 7750 base, the Luminor Power Reserve continuously indicates the amount of power reserve remaining. As always, the small seconds dial is at 9 o'clock. Water resistant to 300 meters, its 44mm case is either in polished steel with a black dial or in brushed titanium with a blue dial. The Luminor Power Reserve is supplied with an alligator leather strap. Presented for the first time in 1999, the Luminor Marina Automatic is noticeably smaller with a diameter of 40mm rather than 44. In addition to automatic winding, this model has the date function, unlike the traditional Luminor Marina 44mm. Its steel case has a brushed finish and a polished or brushed bezel. It's available with a dial in black, or white, or blue. The Luminor Marina Automatic demonstrates the technical advances achieved by Panerai, in particular with its bracelet with double links, alternately brushed and polished. The Luminor Marina 40mm is water resistant to 300 meters. Created in 1999, the 40mm Luminor titanium steel chronograph, water resistant to 200 meters, illustrates the Panerai idea of associating two hyper-resistant metals to create a particularly robust high-technology case and bracelet. The titanium push pieces integrated into the steel device protecting the crown control the chronograph functions of the Panerai OP4 movement, based on the high-frequency zenith El Primero. The new Marina 44, the contemporary version of the historic Luminor Marina, has been fitted with the OP3 automatic movement. Its all-brushed steel case has an original anthracite dial. The brushed titanium and steel case of the technological version, integrated with the combined titanium and steel bracelet, result in a watch that is particularly tough in all aspects. The first water-resistant military watch in history, made by Officine Panerai in 1938, the Radiomir was produced again in the year 2000. The modern case has the same shape as the original, with the size reduced to 40 millimeters. It incorporates major technical advances, such as the wire loops that are now removable to facilitate changing the leather strap. Created in white gold and this year in pink gold, the Radiomir uses the ultra-flat OP7 automatic movement based on the Zenith Elite 680 with a power reserve of 55 hours. Two functions appreciated by travelers are offered by the Radiomir GMT Alarm, a 24-hour second time zone adjustable by the first crown, and an alarm controlled by the second crown. The completely polished steel case, water-resistant to 30 meters, protects an automatic movement based on the Girard-Perregaux caliber 59, with a power reserve of 47 hours. The oscillating weight winds both the movement and the alarm mechanism. Since its origins, PANERAI has made watches in small quantities for the Italian Navy. Respecting the same concept of rarity and exclusivity, since 1997, it has begun to produce special editions fitted with sophisticated movements for connoisseurs of the brand and collectors. With its seconds hand controlled by a separate push piece, the Radiomir seconds counter makes it possible to measure short time intervals, or an average speed on the tachymeter scale, and to return the counter to zero with a single pressure. At the heart of this particular chronograph function is a hand-wound mechanical movement of the 1970s, the Omega 920 caliber, finished by hand with a power reserve of 40 hours. Water-resistant to 100 meters, the case of the Radiomir seconds counter is of solid 18-karat white gold. This watch is being produced in 2001 in a unique edition of 75 units. Recognizable by its 8th second indicator, the Radiomir Chrono Foudroyante, which also has a split seconds function, is one of the rarest and most prestigious movements in the field of complicated watches. Presented in a steel case, water-resistant to 30 meters, this Radiomir has the split-second push button within its screw-down winding crown, so that the start, stop, and reset functions remain in the traditional positions. A special edition limited in 2001 to 250 units, this Radiomir has an automatic movement based on the 13-line Jacquet caliber, providing a power reserve of 40 hours. The Radiomir Independent has a very rare mechanical complication. This is a device that causes the jumping seconds hand to move precisely 1 second at a time. The mechanism between the escape wheel and the seconds wheel is enlarged by a magnifying lens positioned on the sapphire crystal back. The movement is a hand-wound César 7400 caliber of the 1950s. Created in white gold, the case of the Radiomir Independent is water-resistant to 100 meters. This watch, 42 millimeters in diameter, is produced in a unique series of 160 numbered units. We hope that this presentation of Officine Panerai, displaying its laboratory of ideas, the high quality of its watches, and the whole of its collections, will enable you to appreciate the values of a brand that owes its remarkable history to the courage of a handful of brave men.